Hey, thanks to Hungry Jacks. It's time now for the coach's call.
On Simo and Goss for breakfast, coach's calls.
Very great man and dissects the round that has just been and gone. We saw 2 games live here as well. You also saw
St
3
Kilda
games
this week, yes.
Busy boy. 72-point flogging of St Kilda. A coaching masterclass it was not for the Saints.
No, and the question I asked post-game is, going through a rebuild or the start of a rebuild at West Coast, we were chasing some identity pieces on field. It was hard to see it sometimes because if you don't win the ball or the contest, you can't really display a style of play. But we've seen McQualter this year bring a brand. Now, whether they can execute it or not, we didn't see much of it last night, did we? Because if you don't win a contest, you can't actually execute. So I just wonder what St Kilda is trying to do at the moment because it looks like it's not good enough. It's clear. We'll just get some draft picks end of the year and we'll keep moving on because Ross is coaching well, but it's a different style most weeks. It's the coach not to lose by a lot at the moment, which I've done a lot of.
Are there coaches who are not rebuilding coaches who just doesn't fit with their style?
I think you just got to. I know this is just me talking. You got to be really strategic with what do you want to see on field when you're not good enough, because you can park the bus, you can play extras at the stoppages, you can do all these type of things, knowing that winning is going to be difficult, or you can just. So what McQualter's doing, very rarely he might throw us ground behind the ball. He's just going, no, we're going to play this way until we get good at it. And I don't know if St Kilda are at that stage just yet because they got beaten heavily. They've only had 15 turnovers in their front half, and the Bulldogs have had 25 and have kicked 9 goals from the front half. So the skill level from the back half was poor. But it was just one of those games. It was just, and the crowd was, I know he didn't deflect, but got asked a question about the crowd. But for a Thursday night, it was a very hollow night. So disappointing.
It was.
Good for the Bulldogs and Darcy.
Yep.
I don't think Darcy's the best player in the competition. I think we're just going to calm down a little bit. But he's hard to stop. There will be a way. They'll figure out a body positioning. There'll be another iteration of what happens to Darcy because you can't just be that, then away you go. When you're a key forward, he's going to have to work on something at some stage. But at the moment, it looks hard to stop.
Why are we so? I mean, why? Sorry, not we. Why are there members who assess games and we've no names, no factual, but are saying that he is the best player in the competition? Why do we just get so quick to work on that?
I think if you're a tall and you can impose yourself in the front half, because there's plenty of midfielders and crumbing forwards like a Pickett type that he's pretty unique. But Darcy he's the potential unicorn, isn't he? Kicks on both legs, he takes marks, he can go second ruck. He's so important to the team because of his size, and so that's why I think he's touted as a special player. But let's just give it a bit of time.
All right.
Who would you rather, Bontempelli or Darcy?
Right now? Well, Darcy for me.
Okay.
Yeah. You?
I'd take the Bont.
47 plays 44. It's a low-scoring game down in Tassie. 6-11-47 Hawthorn to 5-14 Adelaide. They're both contenders. They're both in the mix. And just the celebration for Hawthorn, from the coach to the playing group, was enormous for such a narrow win. But, I think they put high stakes on this one.
They did. And 2 weeks ago, what were we talking about? Hawthorn. They're going to play finals, what's going on, and, the tackle pressure and that sort of stuff. So Sam's coached out of this, coached the team, and clearly they've got the talent to be better than what they were a few weeks ago. And on the weekend, it wasn't a great game. The old Tassie night game looked cold, low scoring. And I just think the Gunston thing is an issue, I think, for Hawthorn. They're relying on him a lot to perform, and he's 30, whatever he is. So I think their issues, if any, is their front half. And if he's not playing well, he's had 5 shots a goal again in a low-scoring game. This reliance on him is, I think, going to be an issue.
I was really proud of the boys. I mean, Adelaide, they're a good side. Like, they're very good. They're going to be right there. So it was probably our best win of the season.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that, but it was a very important win. And Adelaide was one that got away. Really, come down to one play at the end.
It did, and it was in the end Hawthorn, so they basically are in that chop up for a top 4 and a top 8 spot because someone has, again, before we go on, someone has to miss. You can't see the Bulldogs not making the 8, can we?
Well, they're not in the 8 at the moment. You're right. It's going to come down to a game you're going to reflect on anything and you go, oh, that game we lost by 10 points, we should have won. It's cost us a final spot or a top 4.
Sort of play out. Hey, Brisbane, they 11 points.
Yeah.
GWS, they were looked out of it. Jack Payne goes down with a knee injury. 11 points in the end. 17-5 to Errant kicking 13-18. Chris Fagan post game had this to say.
Kicking for goal accuracy is probably the one biggest thing in the last 2 weeks. You've got to say that. It was our bugbear last year at different times. You know, if you create that many chances, you should win, I think. And it's not taking credit away from GWS.
He sounds frustrated, doesn't he? I mean, it's 2 weeks in a row. I'm not worried.
Is it simply goal kicking, do you think?
I think there's more to it, but it's a pretty obvious part of the game when you have, 31 shots to 22 and you don't win. So that would be the glaring thing that he's talking about. Premiership defence, they're still third on the ladder. They've dropped a couple of games that they should have won. I think it's not, and he's not one to panic. But, 7 goals from centre-back turnovers he conceded, or they conceded, and that's unusual for Brisbane. And it was a really open game as well, so finding a way to close it down would have been a challenge. And it's great from the Giants, really good.
14 goals from their 3 targets up forward. Callum Brown jumped in with 3 of his own, but also Cadman stepped up as the number 1 draft pick, and Jesse Hogan, when he hasn't been there, but he took 12 marks.
Yeah, well, I think we all wrote off, I did, the Giants. I thought, they're not playing anywhere near the level. They've conceded 70 points from centre bounces the last 10 weeks. Like, they've been right off. And to do that against a side who's reeling after a disappointing loss against Adelaide. So it's 2 in a row for Brisbane. I'm not worried. I don't think it's just goal-kicking accuracy. It's dealing with the premiership. But I look at it, and they're third on the ladder. And they've got Geelong this week, then they've got a bye. I think the bye will come in at a good time for them.
Okay. And just again, collectively on the Giants, do you think the Giants, off the back of 1 win, are the Giants still in contention, do you believe? Their best is it one of those cases of their best is good enough?
When you look at, Callahan coming back in the side is so important. I didn't realise how good he was. And Cadman, he's pretty much a number 1 draft pick, isn't he? So it was his 50th game, breakout game. He's taken mark of the year almost. Kicked 5 goals. Hogan's kicked 6. So they're not wanting for a lot if that midfield gets going. And the midfield's been the one that's been spluttering with some availability issues. So, no, there's definitely still a legitimate chance.
Geelong absolutely pantsed Essendon, who were young. A couple of boys out of the waffle came in and made their debut. So we know where Essendon was. They had a couple of debuts, including Archer May.
Dave Newton this weekend.
Yes, there were a couple of those. 95 poents was it. Here's Brad Scott post-game.
The scoreboard obviously says what it says. It's not it's not someone's opinion. It is what it is. It's the but when you concede 107 points from intercepts and 72 of those in your back half, and you just give the ball back to a very well-drilled, well-organised team, they make you pay. Both ahead of the ball and behind the ball, they were far superior.
He's done well not to use the injuries as a excuse, reason, whatever you want. But having been through that, they've got, I think they played a player who's VFL ruck. They played him down back on Cameron. Like they've got their hands tied behind their back to a certain degree. They have a really good performance against Brisbane the week before, though. So to roll out that performance, they would have been really disappointed. Geelong have had 33 turnovers in the front half and have kicked 11 goals, 6 from their front half. So 38 inside 50s to 63. It was just one of those days where I think they've managed, this is Essendon, managed the messaging reasonably well, that they're a rebuilding side. We're going to have some ups and downs. So don't hear the hysteria that I've normally heard from Essendon supporters. On the flip side, Geelong, geez, they're looking good, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're looking good.
Yeah.
We saw them firsthand a few weeks ago against West Coast, who in the end played pretty well, considering what Geelong can do to you.
Bailey Smith and Max Holmes as a combination, they're fierce, aren't they?
Yeah, well, Smith's had 41 possessions, 30 uncontested possessions, 10 contested, and 765 metres gained. But I thought Holmes played better. Oh, yeah, lazy 36, 10 inside 50s, 839 metres gained, and 7 score involvements. That'd take 3 weeks for some players to do.
Yeah, well, you talked about Essendon. We are going to see Essendon here on Thursday night. They take on
That'll be an interesting game. What do you see Fremantle doing to Essendon? Is it going to be a workmanlike performance, or are we going to see a backhand?
Funny you should say that, because I was talking to a Fremantle official before the game here the other night, and he goes, wouldn't it be nice to come into a game and put it to bed at quarter time?
Like Carlton did last night.
Correct. Fremantle just don't do that. They leave the door ajar long enough. Essendon good enough to come through a door if Fremantle don't do that?
You'd say no, but they took Brisbane to the line. So it's in the end, once again, Essendon's tools down back will be a major issue and an opportunity for Fremantle to cash in.
That is on Thursday night. You hear it all here, of course, on SEN. North Melbourne, let's talk about these games. So this is North Melbourne. They were beaten by Fremantle 6 points. Let's hear from Alistair Clarkson.
I think we're showing our supporters and those in the footy community that we're on the right path. We're disappointed that we didn't get the result today. I just thought the Fremantle side, to their credit, were just a little bit more polished forward of the footy than what we were. We had numerous opportunities, but we just couldn't capitalise on those opportunities as well as the Fremantle side did.
So let's just touch on them. We'll go to Justin Longmuir in a moment.
Well, I thought the goals that Fremantle got were self-inflicted from North Melbourne for a while there, and I was getting really frustrated. And and apologies if everyone listens to me on the call, and sometimes I get locked in on one thing from a coaching point of view, which really is not entertaining at all. But the North Melbourne defenders were playing in front of the forward, so Tracy was behind Pink by about 4 or 5 metres, which is fine to be proactive, but when it's a wet night, any time the ball went straight from a Fremantle point of view, it got over the back. And we saw, I reckon, 3 goals in the goal square eventually because it was kicked down the line. Mark or not mark, didn't matter. It's slide at the back because it was wet. Bolton had run onto it, and all of a sudden it's just away you go. And from a coaching point of view, it was simply, listen, get back shoulder. It's coming too straight. It's slippery. Get back shoulder a bit earlier. And every long kick went over the back. So that was a frustrating piece. But from a Fremantle point of view, good coaching. They handled it better. So when that rain hit, they went straight into whatever wet weather manoeuvre they go to, and it was more direct, less mucking around with it, and they just went bang, 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 and that was pretty much the game, wasn't it? Because North did a pretty good job of fighting back to the point where they nearly stole it.
They drew level.
They drew level, and they've had 29 forward 50 stoppages, North. That's huge. They've kicked 3 goals, 1 from those stoppages, and they just couldn't get any bang for buck with their inside 50s, because inside 50s it was 60 to 48. Fremantle had 48 inside 50s to North 60. So they won a different way, Fremantle.
You were concerned even post-game. You're in the commentary with Hayes, and you were concerned. You just hoped Justin Longmuir could see the more positive side of a narrow win. This is what he had to say post-game.
I was really proud of the way the players fought back. I thought the last 9 minutes of game time were able to really bring it back into a contest. Thought there was a lot of repeat stoppages in our front half. I finished the game pretty well. Once we got challenged, it was probably maybe one of those games in the past where we might not have been able to get it done, and the players were able to dig in and execute reasonably well.
Really happy he spoke like that because, hang on, sorry, got me cough. I'm really happy he presented that way because they spoke early in the year about being comfortable with a small lead, and we've got to be happy dealing with that because that's the game, especially against good sides. So they handled the small lead well. Tracy goes behind the ball with a couple of minutes to go. So strategically, they'll show that 2-minute drill that they did. North Melbourne equalised. They sent another one behind, so it was 8v9 and took a really good mark, and then he kicked it out in the full. But I thought from a coaching point of view and a maturity point of view from the players, they handled the game well. And then post-game, and that's why if you're a Fremantle supporter, just having the level-head approach to this season is really important for them because you're going to win ugly sometimes. So take the win. Well done. We'll take some good stuff out of that and we'll keep moving forward.
And they did. They won by 6 points. Just a quick score update. US Open. JJ Spawn leads by 1 shot. I think Adam Scott's just dropped a shot on 14. He's on 2 over. So at the moment, Spawn's even on 14. Burns, I think, may have also just dropped a shot by an inch, just taking a look whether he taps in and drops down. Yep. And Hatton is now, so Burns parred the hole. So it's 1 shot. Spawn, Burns and Hatton, and then a shot further back to Scott, Hovland and McIntyre. The US Open with 4 holes to play. Alrighty, let's get our teeth into yesterday's fixtures, and we had 2 games played yesterday. And the first one was Port Adelaide, Melbourne, 25-point win to Port Adelaide, who haven't been great. Melbourne's seasons, both these seasons are basically over, but what did you make of this result?
Well, Melbourne, there wasn't a lot of rhetoric around Melbourne losing to the Saints a few weeks ago, and I reckon that was they couldn't afford to lose that, and now the momentum's kicked in and they were disappointing on the weekend. I didn't really see a lot of this game, Goss, to be honest, but the numbers sort of suggest that the inside 50s was marginal Melbourne's way, so the conversion and dealing with some supply, they still can't convert. But overall, Georgiades kicked 7 goals, 4.
Yeah, he missed about 3 from 30 metres out directly in front.
Yeah, so, disappointing from Melbourne. But Port, is there any life back in this side is the question. And they're sort of equal with Melbourne now, I think, probably just outside. But once again, it shows you Horn Francis comes back into the side. They just missed him terribly. He's had 29 possessions, 11 contested, so 7 clearances. So, their best is still pretty good, Port, but probably their run's going to be left a little bit too late.
Horn Francis played less than 70% of game time as well, which is a lot of time. He sat on the bench for the last 15 minutes as well. So, you're concerned about Melbourne going forward?
Yes.
You have been for a while.
Well, there's 15 premiership players in that side. I'm not saying they're West Coast of a few years ago, but it's sort of, get the band back together and, bring some talent through. I think people talk like their young talent's going to be pretty good, but they're still relying on some of those older players.
Craving something fancy on the fly, Hungry Jack's has you covered with our brand new Eggs Benny. We'll take a break and come back and we'll dissect last night's fixture. The West Coast Eagles taking on Carlton. It was Carlton by 34 points. They led by 39 at quarter time, and they went on to win by 34. A break, we'll come back. Thanks to Hungry Jacks, this is the coach's call. Mark Duffield in after 8 o'clock with mornings. Craving something fancy on the fly, Hungry Jacks has you covered with the brand new Eggs Benny. 34-point win to the Blues last night. The drama came at the very start. It was 7 goals to 1 at quarter time. But apart from that, it was a bit of an arm wrestle. What did you make?
Well, not a lot, to be honest. The first quarter, it was. I thought there was a legitimate chance for West Coast, and they just could not stop the inside to outplay, Goss. It was refreshing to see Carlton play in that way. A lot of their scores from the back half, and they just broke tackles too easily early. And then Hollands was a big part of the obviously Cripps the way he started as well. But when you might try and find some vision of it this week where you don't trust the tackler, so the second player needs to come in, and then overlap starts, and that when it's straight line as well, you can do a lot of damage. So we call that getting it from the inside to the out, and Carlton traditionally aren't massively good at that. But to do it on the weekend in wet sort of conditions, they're overlap shape handball. So they've had 50 handball receives in the first quarter, and they've kicked 7 goals, 4. And I suspect 5 of them are that type of play where shape and overlap and speed of ball. So defence was all at sea because of what was happening in the midfield. So. And then at half time, I thought, get 20 minutes off, go back out and do it again if you're Carlton, just double down. And they went to this kick mark game, which it was either a coaching move or you tend to do that sometimes when you want to make a team defend a little bit and you open the game up and eventually kick your way through and do some damage. They're just not built that way, Carlton. I don't know why they didn't continue to drop the hammer. And it's one of the questions everyone's asking is why can't they finish off games in the second half? They're the worst team in the comp in second halves. And on the weekend, it looked like it was strategic. Vossi wasn't happy in the second half.
We do build our game off, I think, the right things. The sort of effort that we bring and energy we put into our contest and the pressure we want to put on the game. And, that's what you need at every game that you play. So we'll keep challenging the players to be able to play in that manner for the entirety of the game. But when you come away to a away venue, it's pretty important that you don't get the crowd involved and you don't get a young team, feeling too good about themselves at the start of a game.
So he did that, and absolutely, you walk away happy, although a couple of injuries are going to be a concern for them moving forward. But, yeah, I just thought that could have been a 50, 60, 70-point win. So that's Carlton. West Coast, to their credit, after getting some feedback from the coach at quarter time, they got better in that area. So it was bit of a combination of the two clubs. So Tom McCarthy, he comes in. I don't think this is the last time a West Coast player's had 30 possessions.
Not this year. That was the first time.
Is that right? And I know he had some kick-ins, but his efficiency was pretty good. Duos, we spoke about earlier, got his hands on the ball, so that was really pleasing to see. And Harley, I thought Harley tried his guts out all day. As much as we didn't see the flashy stuff as much as we normally do, although he went for 5 marks, he shouldn't have. One of them he went up and it should have been a free kick. Then I realised he actually jumped on his own player's head too early.
But this is what I said. I had this. I heard a conversation last night. I was leaving the ground. I heard a conversation. People saying, "Oh, they've got to get that out of his game, and shouldn't be flying for those marks." Shouldn't they just let him play?
Yeah, let him play. And they talk about his defence and that sort of stuff. I'm pretty sure Dustin Martin didn't defend that well. I think his role was to actually, do what he did. So I think Harley's working on that. I just thought he 28 possessions, 17 contested, 5 clearances for a 19-year-old's pretty good day.
Burns, Spawn, Hatton and McIntyre all 1 over, and we're going into the last couple of holes of the US Open. Adam Scott is 1 shot further back with 4 holes to play.
Last point on West Coast, Goss. Bailey Williams kicked 3 goals, 1 forward ruck. That was what he was drafted for. His goal kicking's got better, so I think that's a good step forward from that combination.
Hayes put it on. Actually, let's get some news and we'll come back. Craving something fancy on the fly. Hungry Jacks has you covered with a brand new eggs, Benny. Question for you on the back of what Hayes said on the coverage last night with myself. Does another club go after Bailey Williams? Can Bailey Williams strike with another deal at another club as a forward stroke ruck?
Well, he can do it at West Coast. Depends what he wants. I'm more worried about Tim Kelly and Hunt and some of these guys who, where are they at? And Tim's just signed a new contract, so well done to that. But permanent half forward. So, yeah, I think Bailey's developing well with the younger players. There's a chain of possession that was like Hewitt, Jimby, Reid, Bailey. I was like, there's your future. You just need the older players, especially with these injuries, to keep contributing.
Jamara Ugle-Hagan has returned to the Western Bulldogs this morning after an extended leave of absence dating back to April, so he won't play again. Mark Duffield's in after 8 o'clock. Won't play again at the Bulldogs anyway. Is that disruptive?
He won't play again at the Bulldogs.
I wouldn't have thought so.
He just said he returned, didn't he?
Yeah, but that's probably just to show up and go through the paces.
What round is it, 14?
He's no chance of playing this year.
Why not?
Jamara Ugle-Hagan.
Was he injured?
Well, he hasn't trained. He's been training away. I've seen his social media. Mark Duffield.
Bali, got a retreat.
Agree or disagree? I don't know whether he's being serious.
I'm actually being dead serious.
He's no chance of playing this year.
If he comes back and says, you know what, I've grown up a lot, I've apologised, I've got things to work on, I'm better for it now, I might not play again, but I'm going to just commit to the club, how long would it take for him to be available if he did all that?
6 months minimum.
6 months?
Yes.
Oh.
Well,
six. If you were the coach, 6 weeks? 6 weeks.
He's been so disruptive.
I'd say 6 weeks. Yeah, 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh, please.
4 weeks before you start playing reserves.
Yeah.
And then you see how you go. And you'll earn, if you're to come back, you need to earn our trust and do everything perfect. Now, why wouldn't you have a look at it? What are we here for? Why would you? You're here to win and premierships. And if he's all apologetic and gets to work, or you think he's just wiped?
Yes, I do.
Right, okay.
I think there is no chance.
I could be way
I'd be saying
off.
he doesn't play for 6 weeks, and then you just see what happens.
He wouldn't be fit enough to play in 6 weeks.
Well, we don't know what he's been doing.
But we've seen it on social media. But that's
he's doing beach runs. Have you seen him?
Mate, come on a serious note. You're an AFL coach.
I saw someone spoke to me the other day, and they saw him, and they said he looks really healthy. Now I don't know what he's been doing. I could be miles off here, and I'm being dead serious. If he's done with the Bulldogs, he's not going back there. What's he going back for?
Might be contractually. He's got to show up. Might be something in his contract that says you got to
Bailey
rock
Smith
up.
didn't last year.
Yeah, but it was a little bit different. He was injured.
No, he could have played last year.
Bailey Smith?
Yep.
All right.
There you go.
Mark Duffy, what do you got coming up after 8 o'clock?
Hello, Tim. Hello, Adam.
Taking an hour and 3/4 in to fire up, but he's done a good job of it. No, I like it.
I actually
like
don't
it.
really know. I could be completely wrong. But anyway, we'll keep moving on. We're going to repeat it.
Monday's expert, Scotty Cummings to talk about West Coast, Craig O'Donoghue to talk about Fremantle.
Just in summary on those two teams, were you happy with either of the...
I thought West Coast first quarter was a big step back, and then the rest of the game was kind of like irrelevant, and Freo just have to bank wins. So was it their best? No, but last year in games decided by less than 3 goals, they were 1, 1 and 6. If they were 4 and 4, they finished top 4. So there you go, you just got to bank wins.
Fife going to be permanent sub?
It's a good question. I don't know. And you know what? I wonder whether I thought Darcy was significantly better I thought that he got to work in the second quarter, so he was a tick. But did they get too tall? And when North started surging, the fact that they took a midfielder out and put a slow midfielder in, did that affect their ability to stop the surge in the last quarter?
Yeah. I'm not sure what's going to happen with Fife, but he can't be subbed for the rest of the year.
But he's got to be sub, I would have thought, for at least another game. Like, he's got to have a game where he comes in earlier, doesn't he, really?
Well, what are they going to do with Erasmus? So who's the next mid to come in?
Well, you got O'Driscoll.
But he's not an inside mid.
No, well, they think he might be. So O'Driscoll played well in the waffle, and O'Meara is coming back, probably play somewhere this week.
Right.
I know as you leave us, but I tell you is moving more than a handy player is Bailey Banfield down back.
So this is the thing, and this is probably one for Simo to comment as a coach. The thing that keeps Bailey Banfield relevant is Bailey Banfield has improved every year. So he finds a way to make himself better every year, and he was only marginal 4 years ago, and he might still only be marginal, but he's in the mix.
I think he's the perfect sub. I think he just fits everyone. He's just the perfect sub. But anyway, he's gone pretty well down back.
Mark Duffield joining us after 8 o'clock with Mornings Love the Show. Tell your mates you'll meet them at the Sporting Globe to watch State of Origin. And that, of course, the stadium now gets converted into a rugby league heaven for our New South Wales Queensland game during the week.
On Simo and Goss for breakfast, Between the Lines.
So this is Simo, where he says basically what other coaches say and how to dissect it.
Tom likes to text, doesn't he?
He does. He gets busy.
Bevo was a tad harder than Simo.
Yeah. So he's
thanks, Tom.
Well,
you're a nice guy.
He's a spoon coaster, mate. He's the one who's
good on him.
He doesn't like West Coast.
Got to have purpose. You got to have purpose.
He does. This was Andrew McQualter at quarter time on Fox Footy with Kath Loughnan.
Andrew, what was the gist of your quarter time message?
We were pathetic in the contest.
Do you want them to, what else did you have to say? Did you give them a bit of a bake? Did you try to implement a bit of composure amongst the boys?
Yeah, simply we got to bounce back from that. So we've got an idea around the method they've got around the ball, and we're just collapsing on it. We're not getting it done with the ball in our hands. So we've got to improve in that space.
It was funny. I was watching him, and he worked the magnets for ages, and the line coaches were doing their thing, as you coaches do, and then he turned and he got the group in, and he just stood there with his arms folded.
Yeah, well, you can't do a lot of coaching if you can't win the ball. So there's a hard edge about Minnie that I like. What he was saying is, I mentioned it earlier, the ability to collapse in on a play and let them get on the outside is I think that's what he was talking about. The word pathetic's a strong word though, isn't it? And Kath was like, well,
caught Kath on the hop.
A little bit, yeah. But that's just how he felt. So, at least he was raw with his feedback.
Had time to think about it post-game. This is what he said about how the game unfolded early.
That effort, we can't accept that anymore. Like we can't put in quarters like that. I don't think we've done it for, I'm going to say 10 weeks now or whatever it's been. It's been a good chunk of time, and we just spoke about it as a group that there's a level you have to be able to compete at, and we weren't quite there in quarter one.
Happy with that?
So, yeah, I think he's got a pragmatic approach as well as a blunt, conversation as well. So, yeah, really, he probably fired a bullet on the weekend at quarter time, and deservedly so.